So hi, my name is from Yaja.com, and I'm hanging out with Zawadi. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Zawadi Nyong'o. I am Kenyan. I am a proud Afropolitan and digital native, and now a creative entrepreneur.
Wow, that's such a huge introduction. Well, Zawadi has launched a new line of products, Zawadi ZeroByZawadi. Can you briefly just tell us what's that about?
Oh, ZeroByZawadi is an African yoga-inspired social enterprise, which sounds like a mouthful, and people are always wondering, well, what do you mean African and yoga and social enterprise? And it really is a celebration of and expression of me and all of who I am and the work that I've been doing over the years with social justice, using social media for advocacy, and now wanting to bring together my love for Africa, my creativity, my spirituality, my love for yoga, and all things African music and art together into one social enterprise. So in terms of products, ZeroByZawadi makes yoga apparel in African print using the kanga. I'm wearing a kanga dress right now, and the kanga is a fabric that is really important in East Africa. It has been for many, many decades. There's a lot of symbolism behind the kanga, and so I'm making yoga apparel in kanga print. I'm also organizing Afro Zen events, and that is about bringing yoga and African music and art together in one space.
Okay.
And I use the ZeroByZawadi blog to tell stories of transformation of the individuals and communities that I interact with in the ZeroByZawadi journey.
Okay, yoga is not really known to be an African culture. Why yoga, and why, linking the yoga culture and the African culture, and the African art? How did you just bring that together?
Because it came together in me.
Okay.
So the reason why it's called ZeroByZawadi is because I think that at zero, anything and everything is possible. And the inspiration for ZeroByZawadi came at a point in my life where I was at zero. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was at a crossroads. I knew that there were a lot of things that were making me unhappy. And I took time out. I took time out to really reflect, to detox. I did an Ayurveda program in India, in Kerala, for a month. And during that time, I was doing yoga every single day as part of the program.
Okay.
And I had been doing yoga before that, but I didn't quite understand the foundation, the principles behind yoga. And I remember on my first day at my yoga class, my yoga teacher, and his name is Sivadasan, he started me from the very basics, and I was frustrated because I thought, come on, I've been doing yoga since the year 2000, and we would do 1 or 2 postures, 3 postures at most in an hour's class. And he made me read S.K. Iyengar's book, Light on Yoga, which really explains the history behind yoga, and I started to understand it on a completely different level. And when I came back from India, that's when I developed my own yoga practice, because I knew why I was doing the different postures and what I needed to do for my own body. And one day, as I was meditating, I got this vision of a Kanga yoga bag, and that's where it started. It just came to me, and I thought, yes, this inspires me, this excites me, I want to do this, and I don't know where I'm going with it, but I believe that it's possible, and I'm going to succeed because I'm crazy enough to think I can.
Okay, so you're saying that ZeroByZawadi is an inspiration from yoga.
Yeah.
Right? You got the idea when you were at yoga.
Yes.
Wow. Tell me, how deep is the yoga culture in Kenya?
It's growing. So I would say like 5 years ago, there was probably only a handful of yoga instructors locally. I mean, we have a very big Indian community in Kenya, so they've been practicing yoga, they practice yoga. But in terms of the indigenous Kenyans practicing yoga, that's very recent. And the reason why it's growing is because there are more local teachers who are learning and who have been trained as professional teachers, and so it's much easier for people to be open to a new practice when it's somebody of their own who's teaching the practice. So now there's many instructors who teach in different parts of Nairobi. There are people who go and do outreach. So the Holistic Community Kenya is an organization that I partner with ZeroByZawadi. Fazila founded the Holistic Community Kenya, and they do amazing work. They raise money from the yoga classes that I and others go to, and then they do outreach work in different communities. They do community service, and one example is the Nairobi Children's Remand Home. And they go once a week and they teach the children who are held in the remand center yoga, and they really embraced it. At first, like anything new, they resisted it and thought, what is this thing? It's foreign. There were misconceptions about yoga, and the teachers just said, why don't you try it? If you don't like it, then fine. And now it's gotten to the point where if they're even 5 minutes late to the class on Wednesdays, the kids are already leading the class, and they look forward to the class because that's the one day of the week that they get to sleep, they really get to relax, and during that hour of yoga, they're not thinking about all the other problems that they have in their lives. And these are kids that are dealing with so many challenges. So I can say that more and more people are embracing it.
Okay, let's talk about ZeroByZawadi. What kind of products are you gonna be doing? What's your catalog gonna be like?
So my signature product is a Kanga yoga bag. That's the first inspiration that I had. And it's got an adjustable strap and a zip pocket in the front, so if you want to put in your keys or your phone when you're going to your yoga class, it's perfect. And I mean, the great thing about the bag, it's a bag, you can use it for other things. So I've used it on the beach, put my towel and my sunblock, and I've used it for picnics. I'll roll up a blanket and put it inside. I also make journals, because journaling is something that is really important to me. It's been a critical part of my own healing process. So every day I write a gratitude list. I write all the things that I'm grateful for. I also just do stream of consciousness writing. I am also going to do yoga pants in Kanga print, and a whole line of other products that I have in mind, but I'm starting with those three.
Okay, your products are so much attached to the Kanga, and what we used to with the Kanga is beautiful patterns and beautiful design, but then also there's always a line, a message.
Yes.
Are you gonna embrace that too?
Definitely. So there are different sayings that inspire me that I am incorporating into the products. So like the journals, for example, have a saying on them, different sayings. Each journal has a different saying. And the yoga bags will also have sayings. So the sayings will be in English and in Kiswahili because it's a global brand. So it has to be accessible to people in different places.
Next question.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, who's your target market? Are you gonna be just targeting Kenyans who are into yoga, or are you gonna target, the entire world? Are you gonna try and preach the African culture to the East, who preach to you the yoga culture, and you bought into it?
Yeah.
So you're gonna do the same?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't use the word preach. I'm gonna share ZeroByZawadi with the world.
Well, preaching is sharing.
So my target is the globe. The sky is the limit.
Okay.
The first place that I introduced ZeroByZawadi was actually in California, in San Francisco and in Oakland, because my inspiration for ZeroByZawadi came 2 weeks before I was traveling. I already had this planned trip. And when I'm excited about something, I go all out. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to talk about it. I cannot wait to share it. That's the way I've always been. So I decided I'm going to California, I'm going to introduce it there. And because the yoga culture in the Bay Area is huge. So I had 2 events which were called Afro-Funky, pop-up boutiques. And I actually traveled with other Kenyan designers' products as well to share other Kenyan designers' work as well. And the result of that is that I have ZeroByZawadi products selling in a store in Oakland, a city center called Show and Tell Concept Store.
Already. As we talk.
Yes.
How long has the brand been?
The inspiration came to me at end of November. I had my first Afro-Funky gig in Oakland in December 12th actually.
Wow.
And I had my second Afro-Funky gig in San Francisco the first week of January. and it's been growing in leaps and bounds.
Wait, you got an inspiration in November, and a month later you have an event.
Yes.
Wow. Doesn't it take too much to plan an event?
No. I really believe that at Zero anything is possible. And because I think that when anything is exciting or inspiring or creative, people want to be a part of it. And so my approach is I share my ideas with other people, and other people always have something to offer. I really believe that as Africans we're very resourceful. You know, we bring our different resources together and we can create from nothing. So I contacted my networks in the Bay Area, and they were happy to help. You know, Kenyan DJ Mpenzi, who lives in the Bay Area, Leo Fire, who does the 10-minute fix, and he's been in the entertainment industry for a long time. They came together, they helped me. My friends helped me man the stands, during the event. I used social media to crowdsource the music videos that we were screening at the event. I just tweeted and said, what are your favorite Afro-funky music videos? And people sent me a list, and we put together a list of videos to show at the event. So it all happened really fast. I mean, even with the launch of the ZeroByZawadi video recently, it was a friend of mine, Laura Balsera with Purple Native Films, that said, I want to offer something to ZeroByZawadi. I'm inspired by this story and I want to be a part of the journey. And within no time, we set up the shoot. We did the interview at home, and then we went to the yoga studio, and I asked her when it would be ready, and she said, it will be ready by the end of September. And a week before the end of September, I started organizing the event to launch it, and shared again the idea with other people, and people came through.
ZeroByZawadi is your own project. Are you working with other people? Is it, who are you working with?
So I have two business partners.
Mm-hmm.
I do the creative and the marketing, and I have a business partner, and I have somebody in charge of production. In terms of the team, I'm working with people from communities that I've done social justice work with. So we make, for our packaging, we make newspaper bags out of recycled newspaper with kanga handles on the bag, because we are an eco-friendly brand and we're committed to contributing to sustaining the environment in Africa.
Okay.
So we have a team of young people who are making the newspaper bags. And the newspaper bags are not just for ZeroByZawadi, but for anyone else who needs carrier bags. So instead of using plastic bags or brown paper bags, for example, they could use a newspaper bag for their packaging with branding, with their own company branding. So we're offering that as well at a wholesale rate.
Oh, nice. That's really good. And how are you funding, your production? How are you funding the project?
Right now, I am funding ZeroByZawadi from my own pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I do social justice consulting, and from the money that I earn from the social justice work, I'm pumping it into ZeroByZawadi. It's a startup, so like any other startup, it's difficult in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But my vision is to get investors to back the project so that we can really build it and have it be a global scale social enterprise.
Okay, so you're saying that if I wanted to invest into ZeroByZawadi, there's a possibility.
It would be great. We could talk.
That's something, yeah. And of course, a lot of other people would be interested, because you're in a very unique industry that is picking up art and a way of living,
Mm-hmm.
actually, if you ask me, that will contribute both to society and to an individual's personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a very interesting project, and investors out there, you heard her. Yeah. Going back to the community, what is ZeroByZawadi committing to the community?
Transformation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's my hope and desire that anybody who is a part of the ZeroByZawadi team benefits from being a part of that team.
Okay.
Grows as an individual, is able to express themselves and explore their own path as well. So the people who work with ZeroByZawadi are people who are important to me. from a musician, an up and coming musician, and so I'm able to use my own networks to expose them to different spaces where their music can be celebrated. They perform at ZeroByZawadi events, and we have a group of women from a group called Minority Women in Action. So through ZeroByZawadi's blog, I'm able to tell stories. One of the women, her son, earlier this year was attacked by city council police officers in Nairobi and nearly castrated. The city council officer tried to castrate her son. And I wrote about the story on the ZeroByZawadi blog, and there was a protest. And because of the awareness that we were able to build on social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook, mainstream media covered the story. There was a full feature story on the Kenya Television Network, KTN, and it forced the mayor of Nairobi to take action.
Oh, nice. So besides you just creating products, you're also trying to get the messages that the society is trying to bring out. You're also giving a channel of the world getting through to it.
Yeah. And
what's the address of your blog?
ZeroByZawadi.com.
Oh, nice. It's easy to remember.
Very easy. Our Twitter handle is ZeroByZawadi. Our Facebook page is ZeroByZawadi. We're on Pinterest, ZeroByZawadi.
Well,
we're on YouTube, ZeroByZawadi. It's all ZeroByZawadi.
Nice. It's all unique. And tell me, what's your background? Maybe that's something I should have done much earlier.
Yeah.
Because you seem very knowledgeable about social media, and like I'm a social media professional, and I've interacted with a lot of people who a lot of times I have to start explaining what some of these things are. What's your background? Where did you go to school? Where were you born? How did you get into it? Just go through that briefly.
I was born in Nairobi, raised in Kenya, also lived in different places. At a very young age, I lived in Mexico because my father, who is a politician, was in political exile at the time when they were pushing for multi-party democracy when Kenya was a one-party state. So the family, we had to escape and lived in Mexico for a few years. Then came back to Kenya, and I spent the rest of my childhood in Kenya and went to high school here, and then went to the US for college, my undergraduate degree. I studied international human rights law and third world development and African studies.
Obviously influenced by your father?
Yeah, my father and my mother, because my mother is also a very strong woman. I have many strong women in my family. My mother has a reproductive health background, and she's also a journalist. So I guess you would say that's where my writing and my social media influence also came from. I'm a feminist. I'm an African feminist. It's a very strong part of my identity, and I've been working in the field of women's rights, and particularly sexual and reproductive rights and health in the last few years. And a few years ago, I would say maybe 2 years ago, I went to the iHub for the first time because Beth Cantor, who is on the board of Ushahidi, was speaking about the Networked Nonprofit, a book that she has written and published. And so the theme was how to use social media for a nonprofit. And I was immediately interested in that. And I went and I listened to her and I read her book from the first page to the last. And I started to understand how I could use social media to raise awareness about the work that I was already doing. And started to use Twitter in a very different way, started to use Facebook in a very different way, and eventually started to train. So now I also do training on how to use social media for advocacy, for resource mobilization, for movement building. And I'm using all those skills in ZeroByZawadi.
Okay. One thing that we are very committed to as an organization, as Niaje.com, is charity. There's so many people trying to do a lot of things to help people in society. Like I think about 2 weeks ago, I went to an IDP camp in Naivasha with, I don't know if you've heard of Kuna Vijana, a friend of mine called Evans Mureo. I think he's going to be on one of these interviews soon. I'm very interested in uplifting situations, and also creating awareness, because sometimes people don't do things because they don't know that help is needed somewhere. So I just want to tell you that if you have stories that you want to bring out to Niaji as well, we'll be ready to support.
Excellent.
And in conclusion, just what do you want to say about ZeroByZawadi? What do you want to say about where you're headed as a brand, and also giving back to the society?
That's tough. Where I'm headed as a brand, I honestly can't answer that question because it's a really organic process. But I do have a global vision, a big dream. I would like ZeroByZawadi products and the social enterprise to be known all over the world. I think that it is time for Africans to tell our own story. I think it's time for us to celebrate our own culture and our art, because what tends to happen is that others come from outside and they see the richness of our culture, of our art, and they appropriate it and they sell it, and we are not benefiting. So I would like for ZeroByZawadi to be the kind of enterprise that is successful, that everyone who is involved grows from it, and that it is a successful business enterprise. And in terms of giving back to the community, I'm always going to give back to the community, whether it's through ZeroByZawadi or through my individual activism. And I hope that it becomes the kind of business that is financially successful, so that I can also do my own philanthropy work. There's so many organizations that I've worked with that are doing amazing work, and I think, if only I had the money, I would support these organizations. But because they're small grassroots organizations, they can't deal with, donor conditions and having to write very complex proposals and spending most of the time dealing with donor accountability and not actually doing the work on the ground. I want to be that philanthropist that is on the ground and knows the good work that's happening and is able to sign a check and say, here's $10,000, go and do the work that you're doing, and not be the kind of donor that's breathing down their necks and asking them to report every 3 months on what they're doing.
Okay, Niaji.com has a very youthful audience, and you're doing something you love from your creativity, from you pick up an idea and create it, and probably you're already employing a few people, and soon I'm sure you're going to be employing much more. I think this is a kind of entrepreneurship that we need in the country, because everybody's talking about there's no jobs, and we're looking at the government to provide revenue channels. What do you have to say to young entrepreneurs or young people who've just left college or trying to figure out something they want to do? What do you have to say to them as an entrepreneur who has already taken a step towards that?
Yeah. Well, I'm a new entrepreneur, so it's a steep learning curve.
Well, you've already taken the step. So.
I have taken the step,
yeah.
But it's exciting, and it's a blessing to be able to do what I love, because that's a privilege. There's a lot of people who don't have that privilege to do what they love. But I want to say that there's so much that's already happening in Kenya. I mean, young people in Kenya are so creative, and this is the time to be in Kenya. So for people out there in the diaspora, this is the time to come home. There is so much creativity, entrepreneurial spirit is growing every day. And if you're a young person out there, you have an idea, share it with a few people. Share it with people that you trust, who support you. Find a mentor. I think having a mentor is so important. Whether it's in your direct industry or in a skill that you need to learn. So for example, I'm new to business, so I'm seeking out opportunities to learn business management skills, and I go to spaces like Craft Africa. They are committed to supporting craftpreneurs in Kenya to build their business skills, and I go and I learn. Right now there's so much information that's out there on the web. You can do webinars and learn new skills. I'm teaching myself every single day, even with social media. Every single day I learn something new about how to use social media. So I think that anything is really possible. If you have a dream, write it down, share it, and take the risk, because it's worth trying and failing than not trying at all and never knowing if you could have done it. there's nothing worse than regretting and getting to a point in your life where you look back and say, I wish I could have, but I didn't.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Niaje is really grateful to have you here.
Thank
and
you.
we're grateful to know that we can support your cause in any way. So thank you very much.
Thank you.